The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus said to his disciples, "Be sure of this, if the master of the house had known the hour when the thief was coming, he would not have let his house be broken into. You also must be prepared, for at an hour you do not expect, the Son of Man will come." Then Peter said, "Lord, is this parable meant for us or for everyone?" And the Lord replied, "Who then is the faithful and prudent steward, whom the master will put in charge of his servants to distribute the food allowance at the proper time? Blessed is that servant whom his master on arrival finds doing so. Truly I say to you, he will put him in charge of all his property. But if that servant says to himself, 'My master is delayed in coming,' and begins to beat the manservants and the maidservants, to eat and drink and get drunk, then that servant's master will come on an unexpected day and at an unknown hour, and will punish the servant severely and assign him a place with the unfaithful. That servant who knew his master's will, but did not make preparations nor act in accord with his will, shall be beaten severely, and the servant who was ignorant of his master's will, but acted in a way deserving of a severe beating, shall be beaten only lightly. Much will be required of the person entrusted with much, and still more will be demanded of the person entrusted with more." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ. Please be seated.
Magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat, and welcome to the Minor Basilica of Our Lady of the Rosary of Manaoag. On the value of stewardship, this has been the theme of the Gospels for 3 days. Kung napapansin niyo po, since Monday, kahapon, and today, the theme is all about stewardship. And this is one of the most important invitations of Jesus to his disciples. He did not simply intend them to become followers, but eventually, they would become the stewards of his creation. Ito po yung isa sa mga laging laman ng mga turo ni Jesus sa kanyang mga tagasunod. Hindi lang nakikinig, but eventually becoming the stewards. And I think this is also extended to all of us. As Christ's faithful, we are also invited to become one, a steward of His kingdom. Sa Tagalog, ito yung tinatawag nating katiwala. Lahat tayo dito pinagkakatiwalaan. At anong meron tayo, mga kapatid, alalahanin natin, ito lamang ay ipinagkatiwala sa atin. Jesus invited us to become prudent, wise stewards of His kingdom. Ano nga bang ibig sabihin ng pagiging prudent, wise, and steward? I think there could be a lot of things to associate with this word stewardship. Andun yung kapasidad, andun yung leadership, andun yung knowledge. Yun. Kapag katiwala, ipinagkatiwala, we expected more from them, as mentioned in today's gospel. But I think for me, what is so important about being a steward is the sincerity of the heart. Ito yung something so prevailing. Ito dapat yung mangingibabaw. If you are appointed to be the steward, I think what is so important is the sincerity of the heart. I don't think you are entrusted to something simply because of your capacity. I don't think, they could be one of the factors that you will be entrusted to these greater things or greater responsibility because of your capacity, because of your leadership, of your expertise. But I think, again, as I have said, one prevailing factor is you have a sincere heart. Ipinagkatiwala sa iyo dahil may malasakit ka. Kaya nga naman mga kapatid, alalahanin natin ito. Lahat ng anong meron tayo, ipinagkatiwala sa atin. And Jesus is simply asking us for something, one thing, that as stewards, dapat mangingibabaw sa atin yung sinseridad ng ating mga puso. Malasakit ng ating puso. Last Monday, we heard about the gospel about this rich young man or rich man. So blessed indeed. Saganang-sagana yung buhay niya. Sabi nga sa kwento nung Monday, wow, punong-puno na yung aking lagayan. Kaya he ended up to be so creative, so wise. Anong ginawa niya? He put up a bigger barn. And then eventually, doon niya itinago. Unfortunately, kulang ng sinseridad sa puso. A good steward must always have that sincerity of the heart. Malasakit sa kapwa. Hindi mo pwedeng akuin ang lahat. Hindi mo pwedeng itago lang. When we talk about sincerity, make use of those material things to become instruments of God's love to others. Of course, I do respect the concept of ownership. I also commend most especially the gift of being so courageous and industrious. But then, my dear friends, with the gospel that we heard for the past 3 days, we should not forget the spiritual dimension of having owned them. And that is none other than yung malasakit sa kapwa. Ibahagi natin sa kapwa kung anong meron tayo. Huwag nating itago. Huwag nating akuin lang. Take note, as I have said, I respect the concept of ownership. But the spiritual essence of having them is that ito'y ipinagkatiwala lamang sa atin. And let us make the best out of them, of having them. Let us share these things to others. Sincerity of the heart, malasakit sa kapwa. The second thing yesterday is something to do with your own capacity. We heard about the story about being ready. When is the master coming? That automatic. Dapat kapag dumating yung master, automatic, handa na ang lahat. Sincerity of the heart can also be likened to being so sincere with what you are doing. Malasakit sa iyong ginagawa. Malasakit sa iyong responsibilidad. Kung ano ay pinagkatiwala sa iyo, sana may malasakit ka sa iyong ginagawa. Ito yung tinatawag natin being so responsible, being truthful to your work. Alam mo dapat ang iyong ginagawa, alam mo dapat ang consequences kapag hindi mo magawa ang mga bagay na ito. In other words, we're talking here of consequences, expecting something in return. Or else, you might just simply end up with, you do this because you expect something in return. Ibig sabihin, kulang sa motivation, kulang sa sinseridad, kulang sa malasakit. Gagawin mo lamang dahil may bayad. Gagawin mo lamang dahil may ine-expect kang something na babalik. No. When we talk about this stewardship, you must have that sincere heart to be so faithful to your work. There is that kind of fidelity to your work. The third one today, we're talking here of something unexpected. Sabi dito, paano kapag yung master will not come? What should I do? Alam nyo, when Jesus wanted us to become prudent and wise, Wise in the sense that you are not malicious. Hindi yung tinatawag natin sa Tagalog, wais. Abay, napakawais ng batang ito. Kapag nalaman niyang hindi dumating yung kanyang master, hindi nagtatrabaho, natutulog. No. Wise would also mean sincerity of your work. We're talking here of commitment. That no matter what, you are fully committed to remain faithful, to remain prudent and wise in your work. May malasakit sa iyong commitment that even with having those unexpected moments, even moments of difficulties, even in the midst of those challenges, you remain to be committed. And that is what we call prudent, wise, and more importantly, sincere stewards. Again, my dear friends, on the value of stewardship, let us be mindful. Again, as I have said, I don't disregard the civil concept of ownership. Akin ito, pinaghirapan ko ito, pinagtiyagaan ko ito, akin to, gagamitin ko. I don't disregard that. But the invitation in today's gospel, never forget, never take for granted the spiritual dimension of having all those material possessions. Let us rather make use of them to become instruments of God's love to others. And that is what we call wise, prudent, and sincere stewards.